we have a really interesting one today. So NetScaler Console, what is NetScaler Console? It's NetScaler ADM. So this is another renaming project we've done. And, we often get asked about renaming projects and, why do we keep changing the names and it's confusing. And to be honest, the products evolve, right? So the products evolve and what they do is evolving and how they're priced and packaged, that evolves as well. So NetScaler Console is something that everyone should be using to manage your NetScalers. Even if you just have one NetScaler, everyone is entitled to it. It's not something you have to buy, right? So it's something you should have. It's something you should just have. It's used for managing it. So that's why have called it NetScaler Console, because application delivery management seems like a product that you have to buy, and people feel that it's something extra. It's an extra thing that you need to get, and other vendors do actually charge you for that management plane, but we don't. And there's tons and tons of value in there. So we're calling it NetScaler Console. So it's just to be something you use for managing your NetScaler fleet. We're going to talk a little bit about some enhancements in there, and then we have DNS. So some DNS enhancements, especially around security in DNS. And you might ask why, what is security? What does security have to do with DNS? And when you look at how DNS works and the architecture, DNS, as we all kind of know it today, hasn't really changed much in the last 30 years, right? So it's in plain text. Everything's in plain text. And it's UDP, all right? Which means that there's no kind of session validation. You send a request and you just have blind trust and faith in the response that comes back. Now, if someone can send back a different response, you have no idea if it's been manipulated or changed with, and they'll send back a different IP address. So when you go to your online bank or your favorite app, someone, the first thing that happens is you type in the FQDN into your browser or your application, and someone can send something back. You've no idea that the IP address you're connecting to is actually the IP, unless you go online and do an online dig in several different dig engines and then verify that that IP address is the same. But who does that, right? So securing DNS is absolutely critical for those people, for those customers who have publicly available sites over which to do financial transactions. And there's a few different ways you can secure that. So we'll be talking to you about that. And lastly, we have Manjesh, who's going to talk to us about some APIs, how we can streamline and be more efficient with our APIs. So first off, we're going to have the NetScaler Console updates.
Thanks, Jason, for the quick intro and the agenda discussion here. So hi, everyone. My name is Avinash Kumar Pandey. I'm the product manager who owns the NetScaler Consoles management, monitoring, and platform related stuff. So before I start to the enhancement or the improvement which we have brought into the console, there's an important notice. I hope most of the customers who are already using ADM, or formerly called as ADM, and now the console service flavor of the NetScaler ADM, would have seen this notice coming up on their UIs is the deprecation of the NetScaler of the Syslog service feature from the NetScaler console by 6th of Feb. So as we know, right, the Syslog feature, which allows the NetScaler console to basically used as a Syslog destination server, that will be going away, meaning that after 6th Feb onwards, even if the NetScaler is configured to be sending the or forwarding the syslog data to the NetScaler service will no longer be able to process or store those post 6 Feb. So what we have done, we have done the on-time communication. On the 30th November, we have the page being populated with the same information on what need to be done, as well as we have updated the release notes, and as well as all the landing pages of release notes, as well as the syslog configuration pages has been updated with that. Earlier, as if you had already seen, then you would have seen that the messaging earlier was to be deprecated by 15 Jan. But considering the holiday seasons and a lot of people might have changed freezes and they might not be able to do those changes, we have extended it till 6th Feb. So the action you might have to perform is find out or figure out, and if you already have some third-party syslogging or observability tool, you can start forwarding the syslog messages directly from the NetScaler to those. And in case you want to export the existing data, you can export it from the NetScaler service console service, and then you can remove all the related configuration from the NetScaler, which points the Syslog destination towards the console service. So that's the important notification. The information about this has been captured in these web URLs, which I will share over the chat once I'm over with my session. Now, coming over to the security improvements or the improvements which we have brought into the NetScaler. So this improvement has basically came for the ADM on-prem. So you might see us still using the ADM and console words interchangeably, because if you see the service domain, the branding changes has been done and made in console. On-prem would be coming in few upcoming releases. And just to want to add, the feature deprecation of the Syslog is only going to happen for ADM service or the console service, but not for the on-prem. So on-prem still will have the Syslog feature capability, where you can use ADM as a Syslog destination server, and all the managed NetScaler can forward the Syslog messages to it. So over to this improvement. So as this improvement is for on-prem, as we know, when you have a high availability setup for the ADM on-prem, the primary and secondary database need to be synced together and has to have the data consistency, so that in case of any uneventful things wherein your primary ADM goes down and secondary has to resume the work, it has to have all the data. So this synchronization used to happen over a very secure SSL port. However, the certificates which were used earlier were the self-signed certificates. So on the customer request, we have enhanced it to give the control for the customers to choose their own CS certificates. And along with that, they can also decide on what all cipher suits they can use for the negotiations or the encryption of the traffic between the two HA nodes, and as well as the DR node. So it's applicable for HA with DR setup. So these options to edit this and do as per your enterprise policies or enterprise guideline can be done now. Where you can do it, so as you go into the HA deployments in the settings of a NetScaler console or an ADM settings, you will see in the HA development there is a 4 tab now will be visible with 14.112.x versions, which is called as the database certificates. Here, if you click on it, you can see 3 tabs being presented to you. First is the installed certificate, certificate files, and ciphers. So if you see on the first tab itself, whatever is the current certificate, it will show you the details. So let's say if you have not installed anything, it will show you the default certificates with a long expiration duration and basically internal host name. Now, if you want to have a proper host name and with a proper validity and certificate, you can click on install certificate. And then it will take you to a usual page which you would have experienced earlier with the NetScalers, and everywhere you can choose the option to select the root certificate, server certificate, and service keys. Either you can upload it pre-uploaded files, or you can select the local machine and upload it over here, and you can click on install. Let's say if already have installed certificate or they were uploaded earlier, all those you want to view. So you have the second tab as certificate files. That's the tab where you can have this clear segregation of root certificates, the server certificates being used for the secure communication or the database synchronization of the Postgres between the two nodes and to the DR. All those server certificates and the keys, corresponding keys for those server certificates can be segregated and can be viewed separately. Actions what you can perform is basically you can view them, you can download if you need it, or you can go ahead and delete which are not being used. That's about the actions you can perform around the certificates, which are available now for you to play around with, or you can tweak as per your enterprise policy guideline, is the ciphers. So as you see earlier, you don't have any control over what ciphers you want to choose. Now, if you see by default, the strongest ciphers are presented here for the communication. In case if you feel there are some ciphers which need to be added further as per your policy guideline, you can always click on configure ciphers, and then it will take you to the page where you can basically a similar experience on how you would have been doing on the SSL dashboards or the NetScaler SSL settings, where you can select ciphers. Same way the experience is here as well. You can choose your ciphers from the left window and you can move it to right, and if you want to delete something, you can just select that and use this toggle buttons to add or delete the ciphers. So basically whatever is in the configured will remain, and then if you click on configure, it will get configured. Now, point to note here is the moment you click on cipher, its cipher setting will require the restart of the ADM. So basically it will require the secondary, as well as if you have a disaster nodes, it will go and do the reboots. Updation of certificates doesn't require, but cipher spec changes would require the reboot of the ADMs. So that's pretty much from the enhancement which are had been done from the on-prem perspective. I will hand it over to Isha to take us through the new security advisories which has came up. Priyanka, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Avinash. Hello, everyone. I am Priyanka Yadav. I am part of product management team, and today I'm going to give you a quick update on the new feature that was released. Before that, I'll like to give you an update on the CVE that was released in the month of January, that is 16th of January. So we had two CVEs that were released, and let me talk about how you can use console security advisory feature to leverage and to automatically identify and remediate these CVEs. Quick summary on what the CVE was. So we had two CVEs. One of the CVE requires version scan. The second CVE requires version as well as configuration scan. Now, if you're using console service you're using security advisory feature in console service, you don't need to do anything. The system runs the scan for you and lets you know if any of the NetScalers are vulnerable. The remediation required for both this CVE is to upgrade your vulnerable NetScaler to a fixed build. If you want to have more details on what the CVE was and other details, we have a security bulletin that is published. I will paste this link in the chat too once I'm done presenting. But let us see how in security advisory this will look like. So if you want to check it now, if you're already using console service, you can just land on security advisory dashboard. This resides under the infrastructure node. The current CVE tabs is going to list down all the CVEs that are currently impacting your NetScalers, and you also have the NetScalers detail that are impacted. So as of now, my setup is affected by this particular CVE. So I can see the details, I can see everything, the ID, the publication date, the affected NetScaler details, and what is to be done. So this remediation column will tell you what is the remediation. Now, one important note I would like to highlight, because many of our customers have reached out saying that for some of the CVEs, when they upgrade to a fixed build, security advisory still keeps reporting them as current CVE. I'd like to highlight those CVE requires two-step remediation. I'll show you which CVEs are that. So as you can see here, we have, so we'll take one example. So we have this particular CVE, which requires two-step remediation. First is to upgrade to a fixed build. Second is to execute the configuration job. We have four such CVEs that is supported via security advisory. So upgrading to fixed build is not going to solve the problem for these CVEs. You'll have to perform the step two as well. That is execute the configuration and then run the scan again. Once you have performed both the step, the current CVE should not be showing these CVEs to you. So this was a quick note. So if you think that you have upgraded but have not yet, your security advisory is still flagging it, please make sure that it doesn't have a step two execution to it. So that was all about security advisory and the CVE. I'll talk about the new feature that is released in console service, which is custom dashboard. So now we understand that you would be playing different role in your organization. Not everything is important for you to visualize. That is where this custom dashboard feature actually was born, understanding the use case that some administrators would only be responsible some of the applications, some of the instances, and would like to visualize only the key metrics. Custom dashboard is that tailored customization feel dashboard where you can create dashboard on your own, add widgets to it based on whatever is your priority or whatever you want to monitor. So it is going to provide you a seamless and a centralized visualization based on what you want to see, based on which applications you would want to track. So let us take a use case where there's an application administrator and he owns 10 applications. 10 applications are critical for his organization's business to run, and he wants to keep monitoring those key metrics for those 10 critical application. What he can do is he can come here. So this custom dashboard resides under the overview node. In custom dashboard, the customer yeah, the customer will get an option. You can see a plus sign here. You can just click on it. I'll just name this dashboard as my top 10 application. Write some description about what this dashboard does. And here we have multiple categories of the widget. So like I said, I want to just monitor the insights of my applications. So the widgets that you see under application category, I'll select all of them because I want to monitor all these metrics. And then important part, you can create a filter of applications that you would like to track. Now here, I'll just select the important applications for me. I'll select 10 of them. So these are the 10 critical applications that I'm talking about. I'll add them. I'll create the filter and I'll just save it here. This is going to show me this dashboard. So this dashboard will be created once I click on save. This dashboard has enough information that is required for you to track any anomalous behavior so that you're quick to take the action. So this dashboard is going to facilitate you in monitoring and to keep a track on any issues proactively and just act on it promptly. We have owner details here, and so if I have created this dashboard, my name would be Flash. So that is it's important for for us to know that who has created this dashboard, because once it is shared, so we also have a share option which can so this share option can be used to share it to other admin in your organization. So that is where the owner data plays an important role. You can share. So if you find anything and you want to troubleshoot it further, you can share it to any of the administrator in your organization. We have multiple other things like you can visualize it at more granular level by changing the duration. You can refresh it anytime. You can export this dashboard. Just missed the previous part. I'll just cover it. So this is going to give you a centralized visualization, quick access to the key metrics that you would like to view, quick identification of any issues happening in this selected metrics or selected applications, and it will help you to track the historical trend based on the time you select. So this is how the custom dashboard can be leveraged for you to only view what is important. And some of the capabilities which I talked about, I'll reiterate on those. So you can build 20 dashboard as of today with multiple widgets. So I created one dashboard like this. You can create 20 dashboards and have, so we understand that many of the admins would be playing cross-functional role where they would be interested in security insights too, for which they can create another dashboard. We have strict adherence to RBAC. So if I have created, only I'll be able to see. And if I want to share it with someone, I can give them the access under RBAC policies, and I can give them view or edit access. So it strictly adheres to the RBAC policy that we have in ADM. Multiple such dashboards and multiple such widgets can be added to the custom dashboard. It can be edited however you like, and the description, you can add the description so that the dashboard has a little context, and share it with anyone in your organization in that ADM tenant. So these are the capabilities of custom dashboard. If you've already used it, we'd like to know if you like it. If not, we request you to use it more and let us know if we can add any of the use case or any other capabilities to this custom dashboard that is going to help you use it more. That's it from my side. Thank you, Ronan. Back to you.
Yes, thanks, Priyanka. Hello, everyone. I am Nagraj from the NetScaler product management team. Today, I will introduce you to the automated signature rollover and zone transfer feature that we have introduced for DNSSEC on the NetScaler. First, let us see why DNSSEC has become so popular and very important in current scenario. DNS is the second most targeted attack protocol after HTTP. And hence, there are several types of attacks that are performed on the DNS layer. Let's see one such attack, the DNS spoofing. So here, the end user is trying to access a legitimate site, say facebook.com, and the attacker poisons the cache of the local DNS server or responds the DNS request with a malicious address record, which is an alternate address record, which points to an IP belonging to the attacker's network. the web server is present in the attacker's network. So the end user, instead of getting the genuine website, is directed to a website hosted by the attacker. So this is one of the attack, and DNSSEC help prevent such attacks. And let's quickly see how that does. So how DNSSEC works. So if you see a typical DNS request and response flow, DNSSEC flow also is quite similar, where the end user requests the FQDN for DNS resolution. The request goes to the local DNS resolver, and if it is present in the cache, the IP is returned to the user. If not, it goes to the ISP's DNS cache, as you see in the step 3, and the response comes to the user. If not, the DNS request goes to the resolution over the DNS hierarchy, starting from the root, then the top level domain, and finally to the auth name server, authoritative name server. So once the authoritative name server is identified, the resource record is returned from the authoritative name server, which includes the IP of the intended server or the intended destination, and the user will be able to access that application. In DNSSEC, while the resolver is asking for the authoritative name server details, it will also ask for the DNS key details. So with this, what we can do is the authoritative name server, who is the genuine owner of the example.com, would have established a chain of trust across the root, across the DNS hierarchy, starting from its own server to the top level domain and up until the root DNS server. So the end user has to only trust the root DNS servers, which are limited globally. And once it is done, the authoritative name server will respond with two things. One is the RR set, or the record authoritative, the IP name to IP mapping record in a plain text, plus the signed record with the private key, private DNS key for the domain or the zone. So the DNS resolver will be able to validate if the record set and the signed record set are from the authentic name server or not. So this entire process will help mitigate the issue that or the attack that we discussed in the previous slide. What companies do is set security policy where you need to refresh this key in a periodic fashion. So after an expiry time that is set by the security policy, this key needs to be refreshed. So we'll quickly see what is the procedure to do that. So on your NetScaler, you need to create a new key. So the key to sign your zone is a zone signing key, ZS key. There's another type of key, which is the key signing key. Let's not discuss about that now, because these are the two main keys. So basically, when you want to create a new key, you'll have to do the create command. Then you'll have to publish this key to be able to sign a zone. So you will do the add key command. Then you will do the sign zone, where all the DNS response will include the DNSSEC signed response as well. And this key will have a expiry date. Say here it is 10 days. And within that, you would also create a new key which has to replace the existing key. And there is a rollover period where all the DNS responses will be switched over to the new key that you create. And this process repeats as the duration expires. So this whole process is error prone if it is done manually, and it is cumbersome as well. So for ease of management, what we have done is we have introduced the automated key rollover, where the entire process of creating, adding, and signing the zone for indefinitely is handled by NetScaler itself. So in this link, you will find the steps to configure this. There is a parameter called auto rollover, where the entire process is automated. So this is one part. So this handles the DNSSEC key rollover in one device. What if you have a GSLB deployment where the key has to be propagated across all your sites or all your NetScalers in every GSLB site? That process is again another manual task. So we have solved that problem as well. So with the automated signature rollover, you can also configure zone transfer for your GSLB deployment, as you see in the DNS parameters on your right. Once you do this and you have the GSLB auto synchronization enabled, when the new key is created and used for signing the zone, the key is also propagated to all your GSLB site, and all your GSLB site responds with the same, or they'll sign the resource record from the same key. So that kind of end-to-end automated, and you can call it as a zero-touch way of handling DNSSEC, which has made the admin's task easier. So what we just saw was one part of security for DNS, but the entire transactions, the DNS transactions are unencrypted. So in the next topic, we will see what we have introduced. Uttam will explain about it. Over to Uttam.
Hey, thanks, Nagraj. Hey, everyone. Good morning, good evening. So as Nagraj has already covered about DNSSEC, I'll start with how. So if you see in today's world, the most important thing, if we see online, as DNS is as we have already gone through, it is the second most prone to online attack after HTTPS, DNS protocol. So the main issue comes when, so with the part of DNSSEC, we have already implemented the authenticity of the DNS, and its main work is to provide performance and simplicity towards the DNS. But what about the security? It will not help you with the eavesdropping and traffic analysis data and other thing. So to help and address that issue, IETF, which is Internet Engineering Task Force, they have implemented certain RFCs which are used for providing privacy and basically for encryption and encrypting your DNS and providing you privacy for the same. So there are various protocols available. One of them is DNS over TLS, and which has right now among one of the highest used after for the privacy and security, which is DNS over TLS and DNS over HTTPS and DNS over QUIC. NetScaler has recently implemented DNS over TLS, which is completely compliant with RFC 7858 standard and specification. It ensures the implementation has met the industry recognized privacy and security standard suggested by IETF. So I'd like to go forward and explain why DNS over TLS is important, as it not just help you protect to you from the secure just by the attacks. It also provide you attacks including eavesdropping, unauthorized access, and it include DNS spoofing, DNS hijacking others. It also help to encrypt your traffic, and it also provide you so the traffic has been on separate layer, which is 853. So because of that, it is on separate layer. It is completely protected, provide you higher performance. NetScaler has implemented DOT, and we have implemented it with various modes. One of them is DNS proxy mode. Another is DNS DOT on ADNS mode. We have implemented a secure monitor support with that. With that, we have also implemented DNS secure caching, and we also support it in DNS mix mode, which is DOT plus DNS TCP. So I'll give you a brief about each of the mode. So first we will go with DOT for proxy mode. So how it will work is you have to just set up your LBV server and backend server with type DOT, and NetScaler will initiate a TLS handshake with the client and the server to establish a secure connection. With that, the encrypted DNS queries to the DNS support client will send an encrypted DNS queries to NetScaler, which decrypt them and applies and configured DNS or SSL policies on their vServers, and then re-encrypt it and send it and forward it to the backend server. So your complete transaction is protected, which is when you have done DNSSEC in your, it's been applied to your DNS, it is help you to provide the authoritative and authentication of your DNS, but the data which is transmitted via DNS is still in plain text. Here comes the part of DOT which we have implemented, which is it provide you the complete secure channel to transfer data and get it back from DNS server to NetScaler and to the client. That is vice versa, and it works the same way. So this is how we have implemented the same on proxy mode. With ADNS mode, it has so basically what we have done with the ADNS type is, so in ADNS mode, you have an option of secure monitor. You have you can configure ADNS DOT service type, and then it will work as a listening service. So it not just it accept the encrypted DNS queries from client, and if an answer is available or with the query in the NetScaler, it will send it with an encryption. Else, it will share the cached NetScaler cached query, which is available via the proxy mode. So that's an advantage you get via in ADNS mode. This sorry. So the and the DNS secure monitor, it is similar to DNS TCP monitor, but it is, as we have implemented a separate type of DOT. So this you have to you can configure it with DOT type, and it will provide you the monitoring and details related to DOT. The next mode which we have implemented is the mix mode. So in the mix mode, it's like if you have DOT in the front end and DNS TCP in the back end, or vice versa, this will help customer give that flexibility to secure the front end listening channel, as they can trust the back end also, because we support both the mode together. So this is overall how we have implemented it. But the advantage, the another form which NetScaler has implemented is DNS secure caching. So with the DNS secure caching, the benefit which any enterprise customer will get is, if suppose you have a DOT supported client, you have asked for your the query will be learned via secure channel. We cache the record as a secure cache, because when you when a client has asked for a data which is not available on NetScaler, but it is coming via DOT client, so we will not be as NetScaler will not provide them an unsecured data. What it will do is it will get the data, and then it will secure that as a cache and then provide it to DOT. So DOT supported client. So whenever the same client coming and asking for the similar information, we always have that data as a secure cache. So the information which has been provided to the via secure caching method is always go through a secure channel. That's the major benefit of DNS secure caching we have implemented. Over to you, Ronan.
Just something for people to think about. Do you know in your organization who controls your DNS? Do you open a ticket with your ISP or your DNS provider, or is that something that you manage in-house? Is it an internal team? So that's basically, if you're looking at, how do you get value from NetScaler and the features it has, the question is, where is your DNS located? And it's not only just for external DNS. So you can put this in front of internal DNS servers, and I've seen this where people just put it in front of their the router. Often upstream, your ISP will perform DNS lookups, but if you configure the NetScaler as the IP address, if you configure a VIP there, and you then point the request upstream, you can do some really interesting things. For example, if you have an application you access inside your network and it's externally available, you can actually respond with an internal IP address for those people on the inside of your network. And when someone leaves outside, then they go on the outside. And there may be reasons for that. You may want to make it easier to access internally, or you may not want to have to go all the way out and all the way back in again. You get kind of the trombone of network traffic when you can just go straight to an internal application. So you can do lots and lots of things when NetScaler sees DNS requests and responses. And not forgetting, NetScaler will automatically cache the responses that it gets. It will remember the response, so it makes it faster. When someone else makes a lookup for the same request, it's going to get an answer back from NetScaler from memory. It's not going to go all the way out to the source and back again. And we're very smart. We will look at the TTL of that record, and we will stop responding with the cached resource when the TTL has expired, the time to live, so that if the record does get updated or changed in the meantime, we're not going to be sending back stale responses. And that is out of the box. You don't have to configure anything. All you have to do is proxy the DNS traffic using the DNS protocol that we saw earlier on, and it just works. Right. So it's really super. It gives you a lot of flexibility, especially when you say, oh, we need to do a migration, or we have to take some systems down. How do we send users somewhere else? We're taking a whole data center offline. And you control DNS. You can send people wherever you want. Right. So it's very, very, very powerful feature to do. But some implementation, we see some customers, they just outsourced all of the DNS management to an upstream provider, and then you can't turn on things like DNSSEC. You can't say, I want this, I want that, or create a record, or maybe you can do some of that, but you have to open tickets and it takes time and you're not managing it. So thank you very much, everyone. We're going to pass it over now to Manjesh, who's going to talk to us about APIs. So if you are one of those people who, you find yourself typing a command and you type it again, you're like, hang on a second, I typed something very, very similar here yesterday. I don't want to have to keep doing that over and over again. Then APIs are your friend and automation is your friend. So Manjesh is going to talk to us about how we can be optimal, or how we can be more efficient in terms of making API request responses. Thank you very much, Nagaraj. Thank you very much, Manjesh. We'll take it over to you.
Thank you so much, Ronan. Hello all, good morning, good evening. This is Manjesh from NetScaler Escalation team. Today, I would like to talk about a most interesting feature when it comes to automating the configuration jobs on the NetScaler using the API calls. Currently, we have these many methods using SSH and the Nitro to configure the NetScaler. When it comes to the SSH, it's a command line interface configuration, like how do we add the LB webs or the gateway related configuration, the content switching configuration using the CLI uses SSH, as well as a couple of ADM config jobs uses the SSH. But when we talk about the Nitro, it's all about the GUI, the graphical user interface. So you talk to NetScaler using your web browsers, then you're using a Nitro call in the background. Along with the browser data, we will be using the Nitro calls on the ADM stylebooks, curl commands, postman, config jobs to talk to NetScaler, configuring the configuration lines, as well as pulling up the statistics of the NetScaler itself. So these are the two major ways configuring. But when it comes to Nitro, we would like to talk more about the macro API, which is a simplified version or a new introduction starting from the 11.1 operating system NetScaler. So using the macro API, we are going to cut short the homogeneous operations. So when I say homogeneous operations, if you have a requirement to automate creating 20 different backend servers or 20 services, or using the services, you need to create 20 different virtual servers, the load balancing virtual servers, right? So in a traditional regular Nitro API, we will have to send 10 different commands using 10 different API calls. But when it comes to macro API, you can fit all the 10, 20, 30 different API configuration into one single macro API call, which reduces the back and forth between the user machine and the NetScaler itself. So as a typical example, if we want to bring the fully functional load balancer, we would require 5 different Nitro calls. 2 to create a 2 backend servers, 2 Nitro calls to create a 2 services pointing each to each backend server, and 1 to create a LB web, and 2 more to create a bindings with the service and the front end LB web. So when it comes to automating, it's kind of a little tricky or a complex, lengthy process to use a Nitro API. I don't say it is a limitation, but it's the way how the Nitro has been matured enough. But when you want to do the operations using a macro API, it's way faster and way responsive. We all know that Nitro has its own syntax when it comes to the payload. If you are doing a pull operation or a get operation, the post, everything has its own syntax. So ever wonder how do you create a Nitro API syntax using just a simple CLI command of the NetScaler? We have a beautiful command called CLI CMD Nitro -CLI CMD, and then you put in your required CLI command within the double quotes, hit enter. Down below example gives you how the Nitro API JSON request looks like. So in the example I have showed you, show NS version is a simple command on the NetScaler CLI to pull the firmware related information details from the NetScaler. If you're constructing the Nitro call with a payload body, you can use the below Nitro response string. It applies to any working CLI command on the NetScaler. So now a clear comparison between the CLI commands and the macro API. On the left panel, we are talking about creating 3 different backend servers, one with the IP quad 1, quad 2, quad 3. And on the right side, we have a simplified macro API, which will cover and configure all the 3 different backend services with the respective IP addresses, including the state of the service set to enable. That means the backend server is functional, right? On the left panel, if it is a 3 commands, it's easy to cut and paste. But when it comes to creating a UAT environment or a load testing environment, we would require to copy paste multiple CLI commands. Rather than that, you have a one single API call. It's way faster to do a macro API execution. Talking about the demo, here is a quick example. On the top screenshot, I have showed you a curl command I'm using to send an API call. The method I'm using is the post method. In the traditional Nitro APIs, we stop after the Nitro v1 config, but in the macro API, we extend it till the API route macro API. In the header field, I'm supplying the content type as application JSON and attaching the authorization bearer token for it. And the payload looks the way how we had seen in this specific slide. On the right side, whatever the data it is, the same data is going in here. And the response is magically, if you open the GUI, you will have all 3 services created without any hassle. And if there are any errors creating because of some reason, we can be handled using the HTTP on error method on the macro APIs. I hope this was very useful, creating multiple backend services or the LBWIPs or the testing configuration on the NetScaler. Thank you so much for all your time. Back to you, Ronan.
Super. The community has gotten a little facelift. So you will have to, for good security, we would ask you to go in there. You'll be prompted, I think, to reset your password, and we have a new platform. So it'll look a little bit different, but you can do all the same things in there, and certainly sign up for the next few events that we're doing. This session has been recorded, and we will be posting that on the community site, as has all of the previous sessions that we've done. So there is a super back catalog of videos and sessions that we've run previously. So, you know, when DNSSEC and DNS over TLS is going to solve some major security issue that the world is going to be exposed to, I'll say hello to future everyone who's dropping back in here quickly to look and research how does this work, who supports DNSSEC. We do, NetScaler has done for a number of years, and yeah, hope there'll be some information in here how to implement it. So sign up for that, register. If you have any questions on anything, our engineers, our product managers, our support are registered with the community site, and we're here to answer your questions. So fire a question in there, we will make sure it gets answered as well. We welcome you, the community, to that, and we are also there'll be some events, some in-person events planned globally. That's what's coming up at some point. So we'll probably put some notes in there where it's happening, so we may even be able to come along and see you in person. That would be super. So with that, I will thank everyone for coming along. Thank you to our speakers, Nagaraj, Manjesh, Priyanka, Avinash earlier on. Really great session today, and we look forward to speaking to you and seeing you at the next number of sessions. Thanks, everyone.